Okay, Fabrice, what are we doing this week?
Right, this week we're looking at onions, garlic from sets.
Nice one. Okay.
So in the previous week we looked at onions and spring onions from seed. Now we're going to look at some other things in the onion family which you actually start from small bulbs.
Okay, great. And that's why they're called a set.
That's yeah. And then basically this is a set. It's last year's bulb.
Okay.
Or this is a garlic set. It's just a garlic clove.
Okay. All right.
So garlic doesn't make seeds, or hardly at all, and only in some wild populations.
Okay.
So the only way you can get new garlic is by planting a bit of the old garlic, and that will then, over the course of the winter and the spring and early summer, go from this to this.
Wow.
It's really easy to do, but there are a few things to bear in mind.
Okay.
Firstly, you've got to plant in the winter, or used to be early spring. I don't think you can really do that anymore, and that is because for a garlic clove to go from this to this, which has split into lots of different cloves, it needs cold temperatures.
All right.
If you just plant a garlic clove in spring, when the soil's too warm, it will turn into a garlic clove that looks like this, a little mini onion type shape.
All right.
You'll get a round, you won't get a true onion, so true garlic. So if you do end up with an onion round, because we've had a freakishly warm winter or you planted them late, you can replant them the following year. And they will, because they're by then so much larger than your initial clove, will make giant bulb of garlic the following year. So that was a trick that champion vegetable growers would use to make super, super big garlic.
Sneaky.
Well, no, it's just a way of doing things. So it's all is not lost if you end up with really, really big clove. You can reuse them the following year.
Okay. So you just plant a clove in the ground.
And you get more garlic.
And get more garlic.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Now, there's a few things you can do. You can buy garlic in. We went on the Tamar Organics website, which is where we get most of our organic seed from. They've already sold out.
Okay.
So if you do want to get garlic, if you want to buy garlic, you buy seed garlic in, hurry, because they're probably going to be selling out. There may be some in the garden centres.
So you can't use one that you buy in a shop?
You can. I'm going to get to that in a second. So yeah, just hurry and buy it. See if you can still get stuff. The other thing about it is if you buy it in, is it's quite expensive. Using stuff from the shop. You can do that, but there's some things to watch out for. Firstly, if it's not organic, it may have been sprayed in chemicals to stop it sprouting. So that's going to complicate things when you come to plant your garlic. The second thing is it may not be disease-free. So when you buy stuff in from Tamar Organics, it's certified disease-free, and that means you'll have higher yields. The plant will still grow, but it may not grow very well. The third thing that can go wrong is you may be getting garlic from another part of the world with a very different climate, and it may not do well here.
Okay.
So my suggestion would be go to the farmer's market in Brixton, see if they've still got any garlic they planted this year. They'll have probably got their clothes from Tamar Organics last year or something like that.
Okay.
And that will probably be French garlic, and it will do fine.
Okay.
And
are we not giving any out?
We're not giving any out.
Okay.
It's too expensive. I mean, we did a bit of garlic last year. It all got eaten.
Okay.
So that's just the way it is.
So you just take one clove, is it point up and shove it in the ground?
Point up, shove it in the ground. Now there's a couple of other things with cloves. If you look at the cloves, they're all different sizes.
Yeah.
This one actually has basically got mostly big cloves.
Yeah.
When you plant your cloves, you plant the big ones. These little piddly ones aren't going to make big garlic bulbs.
Oh, right.
They're just starting from a smaller starting point, so it'll take them a while to get bigger. We'll talk about how you use these in a minute. So you've got, there's some small tiny ones there. Choose your biggest garlic cloves. So you maybe get 6 to 10 from a garlic bulb. And then you plant them about an inch deep. So maybe an inch, 2 inches if the soil's really light. And the other thing is plant them at least 6 inches apart if you want big garlic cloves. They will start to grow quite soon. So by Christmas you should see shoots coming up.
All right. Okay.
You can plant them into January, but yeah, you can plant them now too if you want.
Okay.
So that's basically garlic. Other than that, feeding garlic, if you feed it too much, you get really, really big garlic cloves which don't taste as strong, and you can also have problems with like fungal diseases on the leaves and things. The plants are weaker. So maybe mulch or compost, plant your garlic through that, and you should be fine. Whenever you plant the garlic, be it now or be it in January, it should be ready to harvest in June.
Okay.
This is really because the garlic's bulbing up in response to day length. There's nothing you can do about it. It just bulbs up when it bulbs up.
Okay.
The other thing also is you can harvest your garlic early for green garlic. So You know, when the thing looks
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's kind of small, you can pick them up earlier. You can harvest them earlier than that. You don't have to wait until the bitter end.
Okay.
The garlic you then harvest will store. How long it stores depends on the variety.
Mm.
Some varieties only really store into the autumn, and some will store well into the winter.
Okay.
So that's something to check when you're buying your garlic.
Okay.
So that's garlic. Garlic's easy. Right. At this time of year, so this is October, November, you can do onions from sets.
Yeah.
So what a set is a small onion bulb that's being grown on by a specialist from seed and then being forced into dormancy to make a little mini bulb, which you plant, and that just turns into a big onion. That's what it does. Very, very easy.
Yeah.
And but there are a few things to think about. Firstly, if you do onions from sets, as opposed to doing from seeds, there's less choice in the numbers of varieties. In the spring, there's quite a lot of different kinds. In the autumn, the ones you tend to see are, I think it's a red onion called Red Baron and a yellow onion called Radar. The thing about these sets is, at least in the case of Radar, it is not a storage onion.
Oh.
So you can do loads of those onions, but you'll have to eat them quite fast within a few months of harvesting them. They don't last right through the winter.
Okay.
The second thing about sets is sometimes they bolt. So instead of just planting an onion set and it growing nicely into an onion, as it starts to bulb up, it will make a flower stalk.
Okay.
Those onions are perfectly edible, and you can eat them as green onions in the spring or early summer, but they will not make an onion that stores for any length of time at all. Now, there is a trick too, when you plant your sets, minimizing that.
Okay.
And that is small sets don't bolt so much.
Okay.
It's the big ones that bolt.
Okay.
It's something to do with the onion being too big, growing through the winter and getting cold. If it's bigger than a certain size and it gets cold, it says, sod it, I'm going to flower next year. If it's small, it's going to say, I don't have enough strength yet, I'll wait another season.
Okay.
So what you do is, when you get your onion sets, sort through them, and it's the small ones. I think it's less than a diameter of 2 centimeters. Just all the small ones you plant, all the big ones you put to one side, and we'll talk about those in a minute.
Okay. So we plant them in the ground.
Plant them in the ground. Now, one thing about planting onions is it's slightly different from garlic, is you plant them just below the surface. So imagine this was an onion set. This would be a very, very large onion set. You plant it basically with this little wobbly thing poking up.
All right.
And make sure you've got the roots pointing down.
Yeah.
With onion sets, it's not always clear, and it takes a bit of practice to work out which ends up and down.
Yeah.
Don't plant them upside down, because you'll start to see these roots growing into space. So there we are. That'll be the soil level. This is the onion set. When the onions finish growing, it'll make a great big fist-sized thing above the ground, whereas your garlic will be totally underground and invisible.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
So that's your onions. Now, the only thing to one thing to worry about is when you plant them like this, birds will come along and pull them up like that, and you'll find your onions all over the place.
Oh, really? So you have to
net or plant firmly, or pop round just to check.
Yeah.
Once they've started rooting, the birds don't pull them up, but initially a lot can get pulled up.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Other than that, plant them about 6 inches apart for a big onion.
Yeah.
And again, mulch or compost, plant through that, you'll be fine. Shallots are basically ancient onions. So this is what people used to grow until the Romans invented the onion.
Okay.
An onion basically comes from the Latin word, I think unum or something, meaning one. So an onion is a single-headed shallot.
Right.
Is one way of thinking about it. So these you basically plant a bit like garlic. So again, they don't make seed. You take a bulb, you plant it. The following year, it bulks up like a daffodil.
Yeah.
And then you harvest them and you save a few to replant. Yeah. So they are a bit different to garlic in as much as, firstly, you plant them like onions. So you plant them very shallowly. You don't plant them deep.
Yeah.
All the bulbs will form on the surface. The other thing they do is they don't form a great big head. They'll form a great big cluster of bulbs above the ground.
Okay.
In terms of planting distances, you may want to check this, but I think from memory it's about 20-25 centimetres, so a bit further apart than for garlic and onions.
Okay.
And then also, don't have to plant these super early. So you can plant these, in January, February, March.
Oh, right. Okay.
Again, order them now before sell out. People are buying loads more of these things, but because they're bulked up bit by bit, the seed companies may not have had, and people are growing a lot more than they used to be, since because of COVID. Get your orders in soon. Okay. We've got a few to give out, they'll probably just go to schools and projects we've got links with.
Okay.
We don't have very
Right.
many.
All right.
Right, those are true shallots.
Yeah.
If you run out of shallots from the shops, now if you can't get shallots from the garden centre or from online, you may be able to get them from some fancy farmers market if they're doing true shallots.
Okay.
Or you could in the spring try Thai shallots.
Yep.
We've tried these before. We plant them in the spring. They grow fine. They make shallots and they're really, really tasty. I think shallots are grown a lot in tropical countries. These are Thai ones from the Chinese shop. Okay, then there are these things. So I said, you know, you can get your shallots from the supermarket. Yes, you can, but make sure they're not Italians. So these are sometimes called banana shallots.
Yeah.
They are not true shallots. These were invented by the Dutch a few not very long ago.
Yeah.
And what they are is they are shallot onion hybrids.
Ah.
So these haven't been done from bulbs. These have been done from seed, and effectively they grow like onions.
Okay.
So if you really love these things, buy your own seed in the late winter,
Okay.
sow them in the spring, and they'll just give rise to these long oniony type things.
Yeah.
There are problems with these shallots is they don't taste as good. They're onion shallot hybrids. They don't have a shallot taste. They've got more of an onion shallot taste.
Right.
Okay, pests. Now, life used to be beautiful. And then
As we
two
all-
pests came along, right?
Yeah.
Pest number 1, allium leaf miner, and
Right.
pest number 2, leek moth. But these things, leek moth isn't such a problem. It's more a problem later in the summer.
Okay.
But there is this thing called allium leaf miner, which is a horror. It's a tiny fly which will be flying around about now, September, but particularly October and November, laying its eggs on the leaves as these things start to emerge from the ground.
Wow.
The little larva will almost invisibly will bury through the leaf and then start eating into the bulb
Right.
and make a total mess.
Right. How can you spot it?
Right, you can't really.
All right.
So you can see these kind of little white dots, like almost like Morse code, running along the leaf,
Right.
like little bands, maybe a half centimetre, a centimetre long, little strips on the leaf. That's when you know you've been attacked. What you can use...
Is it prevalent in London?
Yes, it's all around here. So what you can do to prevent that is a plant late. So if you're planting your sets in December, it's no longer flying around.
All right. Great.
But it re-emerges in the spring.
Right.
Now what you can use is netting. So you can use fleece or fine grade enviromesh or
Okay.
plant net, insect netting. But you need really, really fine grade. Like this fly is really small, so
Yeah.
you need the
Yeah.
finest grades.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you.
No
That's
worries.
that's our onions and garlic.
Yeah.